There's a sense in which music is either totally impossible or completely effortless. Maybe you don't work music, you play music. So that it has to be kind of, in some sense, maybe approached.
I'm sure there are other bass players that don't see it like that, mate.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been a huge sense of enchantment about the whole of the Blur thing. There's a properly magical quality to it. When I look back, Graham Coxon, Blur's guitar player, was the very, very first person I saw when I arrived in London. He was getting out of his parents' car holding a guitar. I was on the other side of the car park getting out of my parents' car holding a guitar. Literally clocked each other across the car. Like the first person I saw. There was a sort of great British cheese explosion. We
you were responsible for that.
Well, no, I was a poster.
Yes, you were. Yes,
I was a poster boy.
Partly responsible.
Writing is a blank page is a terrifying thing, but I think once you know what you're writing about, it's easier.
Yeah.
And as I said, it really did just start to flow, and I was making myself laugh. And if you're making yourself laugh, there's a chance someone else will laugh.
It's very funny. Well, here we are and here we go. I am very excited about my own show, which is the best place to be. And Alex had the same vibe last year, has the same vibe every day. We both discovered permanent joy, we think. I mean, obviously, you don't want to take it for granted. Vassos, let's have the big intro first.
Our next guest swapped a very big house in the country for a very big stadium in the city. His new book describes the last year in his park life. Over the Rainbow, Tales from an Unexpected Year is out tomorrow. So girls and boys, get set for some fun and games. It's Alex James.
All right,
What an
Alex.
intro, thank you.
Welcome, my friend.
It's good to see you, man. It's been a minute, as the kids say.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw each other socially, and maybe not sociably, but socially, was at a chess tournament. Do you remember that?
Wow,
There was a rock and roll chess tournament. I think Gary Kasparov gave it, and
Oh,
it was
my word.
I think it was at the In and Out Club.
Oh,
in
wow.
Hyde Park, and I remember seeing you there. And you go, and you said to me, "I didn't think you were into chess." I said, I'm not, but it's tea time and we're in London and off we popped.
Down to the In and Out. Nice.
Oh my gosh. This book is so good, man.
Well, I wasn't really intending to write a book at all until about 3/4 of the way through the year when I started to actually there's a really wonderful story here. I mean, so the first time Blur split up was exactly the time that I met my wife and we got married and bought a farm on our honeymoon at the exact point that Blur stopped. So I found myself living on a farm with kind of no transferable skills. I was really good at playing the bass really loud and eating cheese and drinking champagne. And I think the fact that I was able to get a column in the Independent writing about being a rubbish farmer, basically. It's sort of like Clarkson's Farm, but written word version.
You literally wrote the column, and he read the column, bought a farm, and did the same thing.
So I kind of, as a columnist, I kind of worked out did it enough to kind of worked out what makes a good story. I said, actually, there is a good story here, even before I knew how it ended. And I started to write it all down in January, and it just flowed. I was just sitting there giggling my head off.
Well, it's 160 odd pages. It's a real page turn. Honestly, everybody, if you want a joyous read that has its vulnerability and is really interesting and is really candid and really honest, and it isn't a memoir, but it is an annoir, if you want to call it. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's great because you're right. You've identified the fact that you've zoomed out from your own life, and you've identified the fact that being a farmer / rock star for a pop-up year might be quite interesting, and it's compelling.
Well, yeah, I guess there's a sort of the out of the blue get this phone call, Blur, Wembley, like yes, great, definitely, and then on the back of that there's extra festival, like all the biggest festivals in the world, basically all weekend over the summer, and then my day job is organising a festival on the farm, so it's like on my word back home for that. So it's kind of that level of mayhem alongside kind of trying to deal with all the stuff which is really challenging, like being a middle-aged man with an expanding waistline, my teenage children, cash flow, all that stuff. Just the way that it just trying to deal with all that.
Yeah, and what I found fascinating about it was the way one's energy changes depending on which energy supply you're plugged into. And in this one, you're plugged into 3 different energy supplies and you just identified them. And of course, that gives you a different altitude to fly at, or terrain to overcome. And the combination, it's a tricolor of existence. And I found it completely fascinating.
Thank you so much. Well, I've spent 20 years, since Blur first went into hiatus, 2003, just like working so hard on the farm, kind of making it whiz and whir, and it's kind of become all-consuming. And I suppose, like, the premise of any story, someone said, or certainly all my favourite stories, is a stranger comes to town. So in The Hobbit, it's a wizard arrives. In Treasure Island, it's a pirate. In Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it's a magic car. And in this case, it's I'm basically living quite a kind of isolated existence, quite a monastic existence, actually. Like people say cheese and music, that's a bit weird, but actually monks sing in the morning, make cheese in the afternoon, and we've recently started making booze as well, which is another thing.
Well, you say in the book, monks have been at it for years.
Well, and actually festivals, festivals all started as religious festivals. So there's this kind of sense of me just trying to keep this crazy work. All teenage kids want to do is like drink themselves to death, and like I'm on a tour of the world's biggest extravaganzas, basically. So there's always a sense that the whole thing's going to trying to collapse into kind of boozy, everyone doing the splits to Rasputin, kind of just carnage. And how do you find a balance? How do you kind of teach your kids to be irresponsible responsibly? And there's always been a huge sense of enchantment about the whole of the Blur thing. There's a properly magical quality to it. When I look back, Graham Coxon, Blur's guitar player, was the very, very first person I saw when I arrived in London. He was getting out of his parents' car holding a guitar. I was on the other side of the car park getting out of my parents' car holding a guitar. Literally clocked each other across the car, like the first person I saw when I arrived in London. And then he introduced me to Damon and Dave. And our first rehearsal, we wrote a song that we're still playing last summer. It was like absolutely bang, in just an instant.
Yeah.
And we spent so long doing it, and but then so long. It was 8 years since, even when we actually kind of split up, it didn't take 8 years to get it back together. So just all that reconciliation, and actually it brought my family close together as well, because it was really nice being able to play the piano just now. Because normally when I play the piano at home, the kids are like, shut up. Yeah. But the kids were too small to kind of. Last time Blur were out on the road, they were all in short trousers, and so I didn't know how they were gonna react to it. But without spoiler alert, they really liked it.
It's fantastic. Oh, I love the fact you were nervous. Cacking it is the phrase you use.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Alex is cacking it, being driven back into London on the M40, day job still going, up at the farm 6:30, get the kids ready for whatever they need to get ready for. Then Dad's off to do his day job again, which he hasn't done for 8 years, and he's cacking it. Continue.
Well, so we thought, we'd get back together and do some shows, and actually let's try and do a record as well. But what on the way into the studio on that first day, what band doesn't hate each other 30 odd years in? And I literally could not think of a band that had made a good record at that at that stage of their career. So I was genuinely, and I got there at 11 o'clock as planned. The drummer, Dave, the drummer, was there as well. We wait for an hour for the singer and the guitar player to turn up. Oh, here we go again. Literally by lunchtime we had a master take in the bag. It was just like plugging back into the mains, and playing the bass in a rock band is utterly, utterly joyous. It is like riding a bike downhill, or flooring it in second in a Porsche, or catching a wave, or so. It's just pure, unalloyed joy. So it was just so wonderful to be. I remember at lunchtime saying to Dave, "That was easy. How was that?
How is that easy?
Yeah." And he's like, "Well, you've been doing it for 30 years. Anything's easy if you do it for 30 years."
Yes, and one could also say, only if the vibe's still there, if the chemistry's still there.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can in music sometimes. And in show business, in life, you get a choice, don't you? You get a choice. You can stay friends with people and make rubbish work because there's no fire there anymore. You can hate each other, make great albums, but you just want to die. But what you do seems to be unique. And also, this is the other thing about Blur, is your last album was as profound and cutting edge as any album you've ever done. And so you're not trying to be younger. You're in the right lane for your time, right here in the here and now, and still writing music that is trailblazing, pioneering, interesting, original, surprising. Nobody really does that anymore.
Bless you for saying that. Do you know what? I saw Damon last night and we listened to the Ballad of Darren, and we were like, actually, it's a proper really evolution. I mean, the fact that we do all go down our separate rabbit holes, and so that when we come back to the table, we've all got something new to bring. So I was trying for years. I was trying to book Nile Rodgers and Chic for Festival, and January 2020, his manager came to the farm. He's a vegan, so I spent all morning making falafels, made him some falafels, sealed the deal. Yes, he confirmed, and he gave me a box set of everything Nile Rodgers has done on vinyl. And I was like, well, what a gift. And then COVID hit, and so it's like no festivals at all. But all festival organisers basically agreed, well, we will stick with the same headliners until this is all blown over. And I spent a long time in lockdown just playing bass along to those Chic records, and they're the best band I've ever heard. Johnny Marr says a brilliant thing on YouTube. You listen to those two playing, it sounds like Friends, and I thought that's just a wonderful way of some. You can hear the warmth and the friendship, and I managed to because it's my festival. I was like, can I play the bass? And I was like, yeah, okay. But actually, it was good that I had like an extra year. It literally took me like a year to learn how to play the bass like that, but. I think just listening to the Ballad of Darren again last night. It feels like it sounds like Friends. It actually sounds like Friends. Don't you think it's got that?
There's been the water on the bridge of the end of you popping up as Blur last year to Here and Now, and Damien literally pops up again last night out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So was that the first time you reflected on what had happened?
Yeah. Have I? Actually, no. I saw him at the film with because there's a film documentary about Blur as well, which we all really delighted with, but that's kind of outside looking in. This, I guess, the book's inside looking out. But no, I mean, we're all tearing off in different directions. So it was really unexpected last night, and I mean, I did incredibly well not to be turning up with a hangover today.
No, I know. And by the way, it would have been fine if he hadn't turned up. That would have been fine because he was raring to go.
He's like, "Come on, have a drink." I was like, I can't have a drink.
You are currently listening to Alex James, he of Blur and Festival and The Farm and The Cheese Hub and everything that is nowadays 100% joyous about life, but also you're listening to the guy who put Lemmy to bed. Now, I don't even think Lemmy had put Lemmy to bed before you did that. How the heck did you outdrink Lemmy?
I can't remember how it ended, but apparently...
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, no.
In Japan, I do have the vaguest remembrance of the beginning of Japan.
Hopefully, it isn't any more than vague, because then you really would be superhuman. Vague is good, man. And so when Blur got back together, the album's done. I'm going to go all over the place if you don't mind. And then you're set to go on tour, and just before you go on tour, you were then informed of your own personal security detail, and you went, yes, I remember this. I get my own security detail. Why might that be, Alex James?
Yeah, it turns out that wasn't my decision, but I think he was like a kind of modern day Jeeves. Actually, Dave was just brilliant. The kids all loved him, and there's a kind of funny sense of kind of, I think it does, just a touring band party it's like a weird, strange, moving aristocracy with its kind of Jeeveses and its bumbling drunken Bertie Woosters and its villains and its heroes. Because there used to be a grand tour, didn't there, where kids would go, young kids would go to, where did they go, like Venice and the all the seven wonders of the world. But these days, kids want to go to all the big festivals. They want to go to Roskilde, they want to go to Glastonbury, they want to go to Summer Sonic, all these kind of crazy pop-up kind of wonderlands. So it was a totally bonkers year, but I just kept being brought back to reality by having to come home and wash up. And there was a lot of cat mess and dog poo,
Yeah, no,
and
you
then
came back
a
to
massive
cat
drain,
hell, didn't you?
a massive drain. Well, one of the cats started to think the toaster was a cat litter machine.
Yeah,
that
and
was
also you had more
disappointing.
cats than you said. How do we get this many
How
cats?
did
Anybody
we-
else got any
I
cats, or
got
do we have
no-
all the cats?
How that was another lockdown thing. I think one of them we couldn't get one spayed and it got pregnant.
I
and you
know a
couldn't-
lot of
and-
people who now have like 10 or 11 cats when they weren't quite sure if they had one
10
or
or
not.
11. Wow, that is I think that 8.
So you had to get fit for the tour.
Oh my word!
And so you break out the Britpop trousers, you hang them above the fridge / dining table, and you think, oh, right, by the time the tour starts, I have to be able to fit back into those again. And you went all in on the health, all in the
my
well-being,
word,
all
yeah.
in on the fitness.
Yeah, well, I had to, like a lot of people, put weight on in lockdown, and I do live in a food machine, and I'm surrounded
And
by
you love
chefs
food?
because I do, and
You have quality product available.
Indeed, I put a hell of a lot of weight on, and you can't point a Super Trooper at a fatso. It's just it doesn't work.
Absorbs all the light.
So there was it just no, not gonna. So there was a kind of hard line, and so I thought it was good to just like the Britpop trousers. I needed to be able to fit back in them, and that was so.
Day one?
So I went to Decathlon in Oxford to buy some running shoes. Said I need some running shoes.
Uh-huh.
The guy said, "Who for?" That's how fat I was.
Young man. Thank you very much indeed.
I guess the great thing, the terrifying thing, was that it's usually being in a band that leads to kind of excess, but Blur was a kind of balancing factor. It was a kind of rehab.
Because you
for
love
weight
Blur
loss.
so much.
Well, no, just because I had to get
Yeah,
fit.
and you
there
don't
was
want to
no
let
two-
Blur down.
No, exactly. But the great thing about the gym is that, unlike kind of mid to late career albums, and unlike most things you do, like trying to organise a festival, there's no guarantee. Did you see those tents going up in the air in a whirlwind like the Wizard was at Reading? Was at Leeds this summer?
Yeah.
You never know whether the bands are going to turn up. But with going to the gym when you're on your 100th burpee, even though you're grunting, groaning in pain, you know it's working. It's guaranteed to work.
100th burpee, that's impressive. I can't burpee. I can't burpee.
100 burpees. That's pain.
You're saying
10
twice
lots
a
of
day
10.
in the end in the
Yeah,
gym.
yeah.
Fit as a fiddle by the time you
Well,
got.
you
were getting
never
there.
quite there, but it's getting there.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it all began with warm-up shows.
Yes,
Colchester was the first
Colchester
one,
was the first one. Well,
So-
when it was tiny, it was actually smaller than the production rehearsal. Actually, it was like it was a church that Damon and Graham had played, and David played in.
Yeah.
When they were teenagers.
And the great and the good
in
coming out of the
Colchester.
woodwork, get us a ticket, da-da-da.
Yeah, but it was a tiny show. But it turned, because we announced the album that day. It kind of turned into a global news event. So it was like boom. It was like bang.
Yeah.
The gun.
And all
was
these
off.
stories in this 165 pages. And other stuff, loads of familiar stuff as well. It's absolutely gorgeous. What's a 118?
That is the security code for if when you basically, as soon as you play the last note, you run off stage, get into a waiting car, and get the venue, get the hell out of the venue while the crowd are still cheering. So
Cheering for more.
Cheering for more. So you kind of beat temptation, get the hell out of Dodge before everything goes
All right.
crazy. That's a 118.
Do we know why it's called a 118?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Darren /
I didn't know.
Snoggy.
And then there's a 117.
117. Oh yes, this is 117. Is that's when you have to exit a hotel or venue via a service lift, a goods lift and a service entrance to avoid crowds.
So we know 117, 118.
Code
This
117.
suggests there's 116 others before, or is it like MI5? They just start at 5.
Security have got their whole own thing going on.
Great, though, isn't it? But again, all the way through, I was astounded at the book, and I was astounded at its simplicity, which doesn't mean it's not sophisticated. It's beautifully simple. And the thing that astounded me most was you wear being in Blur so lightly and joyously on your sleeve. And it's like, I've got this festival to organise. It's a nightmare. I've got the family. I love the family, but I've got 5 kids.
I think it's maybe different for bass players. Singers and guitar players, I think they need to feel they've suffered, or they haven't. If they haven't,
But you
suffered,
really don't suffer in the band.
No, not at all. And actually, that Wembley weekend, weekend, I kind of had it as a weekend off in the diary. It's like kind of sitting on the lawnmower and mowing the lawn.
Can we just have a round of applause for that? That's the job you want.
Well, you know, you don't. There's a sense in which music is either totally impossible or completely effortless. Maybe, you know, you don't work music, you play music. So that it has to be kind of, in some sense, maybe approached.
I'm sure there are other bass players that don't see it like that, mate. That says a lot. Speaks a lot about to your character.
Well, you know, Damon and Graham are both incredible people to play off, and there's something really special about bands. They not really making them anymore. I mean, actually, you know, when I was a kid, if you wanted to make music, you needed a drummer and a bass player. But now in my kids in their phones, they've got like, you know, drum machines and sequencers. There's something really, really special about a group of people who've been playing together for years and years.
Well, we said that on the show last week. In this decade, there's only been 3 bands that have reached number 1.
No.
And by the way,
really?
One of them was an all-star band.
Wow.
The Radio 1 Live Lounge all-star band for 1 week. One was the Beatles with a re-release. Wow. And the other one was Little Mix for a week.
Wow.
But no other bands have been at number 1 this decade.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's completely crazy and not crazy.
I mean, a big one is no doubt bigger than ever before. The Taylor Swift gigs can be measured on the Richter scale, right? I read, and like Adele's new album, when that gets released, it's kind of visible from space.
There's a vinyl shortage.
Is there
no, there was a vinyl shortage.
Really?
So the last album, which she then announced she was going to release it on vinyl, and everybody who needed vinyl went, oh, whatever the next word is going to be, you can guess what that might be. And they then checked, and guess what? The record company had bought the world's vinyl.
No. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a different thing having a kind of front person with kind of backing musicians. But people just all those years we had of playing together for hours and hours, day in, day out, every day, and being able to learn music as a proper craft.
Yeah.
You know, it really counts for something, and the fact that we don't do it very often now, so it's not like
so you really look forward to.
Yeah. Like it was a handful of shows. It was like including the warm ups and the kind of playback of the entire Ballad of Darren, maybe 20 shows all in. So like every one felt really, really special, and I'm not kidding. I never thought we would top Glastonbury 2009. That was the kind of benchmark. But that Wembley weekend, I might even start crying now. It was so emotional. My word. Like Damon Albarn he was born to stand on that stage. I couldn't watch the Queen at Live Aid before because I was like, that's where the bar is, isn't it? But he was good, Damon. He was good that night.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because he was amazing that night, and then you talk about the last tour of the 20 pop-up shows, or however we want to describe it, and you looked at the crowd, you were in the moment, and you thought, what if this never happens again? And you felt sad.
I did. Well, there's always a sense of like, you know, you want to leave it in a good place, you know how. Of course, but the whole year sort of building to crescendo finale, and I get Feastival out of the way, and we've managed to play the new album live in its entirety without messing that up, and then we go to South America, and it's like the biggest city in the world, and it's summertime and it's Christmas and it's mental, and then someone thought it would be a brilliant idea to organise a show in Bogota, Colombia, on my birthday, which was a big night, and then the whole thing ended in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and they just won the football, and they just elected a new president. And I mean, South America, that's another place that holds a huge sense of enchantment. They love British rock bands down there, and Argentina is a totally enchanted place.
Should we just stick a pin in that? Should we just go back to Bogota? And you were, what's the word? You were not subpoenaed. You were definitely summoned.
Yes, I had to go. Yes, well, yeah. After comments I'd made about certain substances in the 90s, which is all behind me now, I was summoned out to see the boss man there and given a very thoroughly.
Were you given a heads up about what the content of the meeting may be?
Oh no, it was when I was promoting my first book. You know, I said I've spent quite a lot of money on drugs, and I actually got a letter from the president saying,
right,
"Wait, come and see what a mess it's making in my
country."
Yeah. So I made a documentary about it, actually.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with Colombia. Then it's I mean, yeah, the whole of South America. It's a completely other. It's another planet, a parallel universe of kind of
different
vastness, incredible.
What
food.
tell us about the vibe? Because people talk about vibe. It's all woohoo. No, it's not. It's actually not. We're electric. We transmit frequencies, and if you're on somebody else's wavelength, you are, and if you're not, you're not, and that's what happens. So what's it like when you get off the plane in Blur in South America?
The crowds at the airport, crowds at the hotel. I mean,
How many people?
Total mayhem. Like hundreds at the airport, thousands at the hotel. I mean, they really do.
This is last year.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It just bonkers. I mean, the first time we got back together and went out to South America, I remember getting to the doing the school run, dropping the kids off, going to the airport, getting on the plane. Yeah, was literally hundreds of people at the airport, thousands of people at the hotel. Got to the venue in Mexico City, and it was where the World Cup final was, when the World Cup was last in Mexico. And I don't know how the hell, because in the 90s it wasn't until after we kind of split up that the music kind of found its audience there. I don't know. Apparently the song 2 was used in the FIFA football game now in the A4, and apparently that's what kind of broke the band there. But it's there's so much development going. It's a contrast with Europe, which can sometimes feel a bit broken. South America, there's development, investment. They're building towards the future. Right. Skyscrapers everywhere, and Mexico City's at altitude, so you kind of feel a bit kind of dizzy. But the food is just sensational. Just the appetite and the enthusiasm of crowds all across the continent. They seem to connect better with British rock bands than American rock bands. And nothing can prepare you for how much Argentinians love the Brits. I mean, they're mad on football and roast beef, and it's all British breeds of cattle they're eating, and they are the world masters of barbecues, like a good Argentinian parrilla.
I've had the meat, but I've never had the meat in Argentina.
Oh my word!
Did you learn anything?
What in terms of
farming?
Well, the cattle are basically wild. It's just so vast. There's no fences. They just roam around, drinking from the streams and eating from the grass on the plains, and like kind of old-fashioned rawhide, but with lusher grass. But oh man, they know how to barbecue.
So you have that last moment on stage. Damon isn't engaging with you, and you're worried that this is it. He never wants to speak to you again. And you try and catch his eye, and then he does the ultimate 118, and you go, "Oh my God, what did we do wrong?"
I kicked him up the bottom, come on! I was getting the crowd were going absolutely mental. Yeah. He wasn't even looking at me, and so I went over and kicked him up the bottom, and still didn't look at him. Like, oh my word, what's going to happen? But apparently, Damon's a very keen street food experimenter. Right. He loves to dive straight in, get down and do. I mean, and that often is the best food that you'll get anyway. Avoid the posh restaurants. Just go. But
it comes with a risk.
It does come with a risk, and it was coming out of both ends. I mean, how he made it through that show, I do not know. But we got off the stage, and he was literally over the back, just like
right. So it's over. So it finishes, right? 20 dates or whatever it was. It finishes. You come back, and because you've now got a life, a big fat feastable, beautiful cheese making family. Dripping with love life. You don't need that decompression like you used to, or do you? Tell us about that.
Well, I think writing the book was probably the decompression, actually, because we literally it all finished almost a year ago to the day we got back to another Christmas, another more parties. But so it was just really good. In the first week of January this year, I just sat down and started writing. And writing is a blank page is a terrifying thing. But I think once you know what you're writing about, it's easier. Yeah. And as I said, it really did just start to flow, and I was making myself laugh. And if you're making yourself laugh, there's a chance someone else will laugh.
It's very funny. It's a funny book. Honestly, it's one of my favourite books. It's a great.
You, man.
Buy it for Christmas. Buy this and buy the Chris Hoy book, and the others can just wait. When you met up with the band again in the studio in London making this album, because not only were you popping up with the tour, Damon says, "I think I've got an album for the music," and couple of weeks later, off you bang
I
with
mean,
it.
it was that instant. It was literally the backing tracks done in a couple of weeks. I mean, it either works or it doesn't. I think it's like.
So you're all exchanging what you've been up to. You said you brought to the party. I'm trying to master the big frazzle.
Well, I think maybe I was just being a bit facetious because it was a little bit like a job interview. You know, that first meeting, like Damon's like, "What are you doing now?" And so Graham's obviously doing a film score for Jez Butterworth and got a record coming out. Dave's doing a film score for Disney. He's got a record coming out. I was literally trying to make a really, really big frazzle.
Right, and you say that many Michelin stars have gone down in flames in an effort to help you make the big frazzle.
It's tricky. It's no doubt it's another monastic.
Are we talking about the frazzle that you get in the savoury snack?
Well, actually, it was my youngest daughter started eating frazzles with our blue cheese on at bedtime, and it's
what a combo!
Because I couldn't have much cheese. It kind of spread around the house, like it became a rage around the house. Everyone was like, "Let's get some more frazzles. Let's get some more cheese."
Let's get frazzled.
And then soon some people were saying, why aren't frazzles a bit bigger? And actually, at Feastival, we run our own restaurants within the event, and compostable cutlery and crockery it's a nightmare. I mean, it is compostable, but it's expensive, and you're throwing it in a compost bin, but you're still throwing it away. And I was thinking, actually, if we could make like an edible, a massive, whacking great frazzle that would soak up all steak juices, wouldn't that be?
Sure, I'm going into frazzle.
That was the dream. But
where are we with?
Well, I'm hope if I haven't got a massive frazzle for this year's festival, I think I'm in trouble because I've been talking about it for long enough.
Frazzle Festival, Frazzleville.
But it's the thing. There's been books. I've seen books on chocolate and cheese and wine. Pretty much. I don't think anyone's ever done a book on crisps. And if you, it's hard to find anything on Google because
I can sense something simmering here.
You can trademark a name, but you can't copyright a recipe. So for you Colin the Caterpillar thing, which I think is a very good idea,
Thank you very much.
and someone needs to sort that out.
Okay, right, it's happening. It's happening on Friday.
So you're going to taste them blind, right? You have to. You can't say this is the Waitrose one.
Oh, right, okay.
So you have to put them all out
Very
without saying which one's which. Because if you think this, if you know this is the Waitrose one, you go, oh, this is the posh one.
Yeah.
But it's if you need to taste it blind would be my
Can I
advice.
just okay, I was going to ask you about this, right? So I'm so glad that you brought us onto this because you've done lots of tasting and things, and already this has come to the fore. So you just taught me something I didn't know. I thought a blind tasting was we have to guess which one is which, but it's not. It's different. So you get
all your caterpillars and you take them out of the boxes, and then somebody knows. Someone has to keep a record of which one's which. But if you know this one's the little one, you're going to think, oh, this one's cheap.
Yeah.
But
so we're
whatever.
taking the trademark out and the history.
And then you judge it
on
on appearance and taste and texture and aroma or whatever. But actually, smoked salmon testing is actually done blind because studies have shown that people just prefer even experts just prefer the orange one. So I went to Norway and that they had this salmon testing laboratory which is all under ultraviolet light, so it all looks the same colour.
Brilliant. Because in blind tasting in vineyards they have black glasses, don't they?
Do they? Yeah, because the colours are really strong.
Yeah,
kind
so
of
you
hue.
don't have to wear a blindfold because you can't see if it's white or red.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Which makes sense,
Brilliant.
doesn't it?
Oh, I love
All right,
it.
so
I love a taste test.
let's crack on with this. So in between the caterpillar cakes,
yes,
obviously. If we get an oversweet one, it's going to make the next one taste more bitter or less sweet.
I would say a cup of tea.
Right.
You want something to kind of reset your palate. With cheese, it's apples really.
Neutralizer.
A palate neutralizer. I think tea might be quite good because there's a bitterness in tea that would just soak. Don't you? I mean, that's what you want with
but bread.
Cake.
We say, apparently bread does it very well. Dry bread does it very well.
You're going to be
back of your hand. Neutralises your reverse nasal passage.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, and water. But if you've done this, how many tastings have you done? Like countless.
Like everything from mince pies to mead.
You work for the Great Taste Awards.
Yeah, I mean, food judging is fun. Being a judge on that was great. Like, I mean, and cheese awards ceremonies. That's always a good day out. Yeah.
You nailed the cheese, didn't you? I mean,
there was a sort of Great British Cheese explosion. We
were responsible for that.
Well, no, I was a poster.
Yes, you were.
I was a poster boy.
Partly responsible.
But Britain ran out of food in the Second World War. Bacon was rationed until my dad was in his 20s. It's easy to forget that a once proud and noble food culture was torn to shreds because cooking skills weren't passed down from generation to generation. Recipes were lost because we ran out. We ran out of food. But over the past 20 years particularly, we suddenly discovered found our taste buds again, and from producing one type of cheese in the Second World War, the UK's now got nearly 1,000, I think.
Yeah, it's more than France, isn't it?
So no British sparkling wine no English wine at all commercially available in 1990. None. You couldn't buy it. It was the preserve of hobbyists and amateurs, right? And now the finest English sparkling wines rival the best in the world, and we've got a burgeoning, thriving
Good for you, mate.
food
This is
culture.
great, and you're speaking the language. You are you've not learnt the language. Well, you have, but now you speak it fluently, and it's actually more than you speaking it fluently now. It's coming from a place of truth. It's magnificent. We are way out of time. Alex, great.
Thank you so much for your energy and your
this
love.
This book
what a
is
pleasure.
so good.
Thank
It's
you.
so good. Over the Rainbow, Tales from an Unexpected Year. But a joyous year. And that's because you have the joy. You now have the joy. You transmit the joy. You gave the joy before. Collectively, you had it. But now individually, you've all found your other paths. But you know that there is a source where all this came from. And you haven't forgotten it. And you're there to spread it. And it's brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow, everyone.
Virgin Radio.